Hey, what's going on, guys? Back for another edition of We Talk LA. And today I am joined by the former owner of Yarrow, the former executive chef at Chimney Coffee, and now bringing Secret Lasagna back to the people just when we need it most. Chef Royce Burke. Royce, what's going on, sir? How you doing?
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah?
Probably not as stressed out as you are, I would say, at the moment. But
I'm shocked that I still have color in my hair. Um,
no, yeah, it's just I think everybody's going through an ordeal right now in one way or another, and I think no matter what industry you're in, but I imagine um, in the food service industry and the restaurant industry, it's a special kind of trauma that everybody's feeling for many different directions. And
yeah,
I thought it would be helpful to kind of bring you on today to talk through some of what's happening in that industry, some of the issues that they're going to be facing now and into the future, and also talk about some of the good work that I feel like you're doing in helping some folks come back to work right now, but also providing a platform for helping out families and communities in need. So we're going to get into all that.
awesome.
I did kind of want to open by just maybe probing you a little bit on your journey from
Probe away.
yeah from getting an interest in food at a young age to finding your way into Napa Valley and studying wine to coming to LA and ultimately becoming a pretty well-known chef. I feel like in the you're doing some good stuff out there. So
It's been a long and convolutedly winding journey.
yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
a familiar tale for many people who've worked in restaurants. But maybe you could just give me a little bit of backstory, and then
Yeah,
let our listeners and readers know what brought you here to this point in life.
let's do. I mean, I'm the oldest of 7 kids. So that right from the get-go was a lot of, I think there's some innate kind of built-in caretaking elements from that, where it's, when you have that many siblings, it's like people always ask me why I never really had an interest in having kids, and I'm like, I feel like I've already had quite a few. And I also, restaurants are just too, I can't, like, all my friends who have restaurants, they're going through this right now and have children. I am in awe of them because I don't know how that works. That makes, like, no, I can't comprehend. Yeah, and I think, so I growing up, my dad was in the trades. He was an electrician, so he kept crazy hours. We were always on very, very tight budgets, and so seeing, I think I took a lot of that. My mom was really good at making something really delicious out of nothing, and kind of everything you're seeing now in quarantine. Well, there's people like making their, like, refrigerator casseroles and soups and whatnot with everything that's left in the fridge. That was a lot of growing up, and I think that was the first introduction for me to what can make food really magical, is the ability to take a bunch of stuff that people would normally throw in the trash or view as a second grade product, etc., and make it into something really wonderful and spectacular in many ways. Um, I think I was very lucky. We for a long time lived with my grandmother lived with us. My mom's mom, who immigrated from Alsace when she was a young girl, and so my mom and my dad were never very adventurous eaters food wise. But my grandmother was always introducing me to new things and got me to try pickled herring and all, like, flavors that I normally wouldn't grow up with as you know uh poor kid in a suburban environment. I think there's that really, like, opened my eyes to other possibilities flavor wise. And then, yeah, I think when you grow up that way and with that many siblings, you also kind of grow up a little faster in some ways. And I moved out I moved to St. Helena when I was, I think, 16 or 17, right when I graduated high school, and started studying winemaking, taking care of my cousin's son during the days, and then going to school at night, and then working in wineries on my days off. I was it's like food. It's one of those art forms where you can take something and turn it into something else that's really beautiful, and seeing that process and being a part of it is something I've always loved. And then yeah, through I mean, I was in St. Helena for a while, and then I moved to San Francisco to help open a wine bar there. Ended up in, I'm not going to get into that story, but ended up in real estate development. And then I moved back to St. Helena after I opened a consulting company. And then I think right when I was starting to come to LA a lot more consistently, and like I was here like, you know, once every couple of weeks. It was about 10 years ago. I couldn't, I dreaded opening my email inbox every morning and seeing emails from clients that I couldn't stand working with, etc. And I just I just started cooking. Um, and that's, I think I was doing private chef stuff for a while. Like I would pay my rent by doing private stuff and trimming weed at night. But yeah, my first ever cooking gig was probably the most. It was like, it was one of those things where it's like you're either gonna love this or you're gonna hate it. And it was a gig in Santa Barbara, and I was in San Francisco at my brother's place in the city, and I got on a bus to Santa Barbara, got all of my ingredients at Whole Foods, which is terrible cost of goods. Never did that. Again, this is my first time. And then took an Uber up the, you know, up to some cliffside mansion in Montecito, and cooked for 6 people, and of course forgot a bunch of things, had to improvise stuff, but they were ecstatic, loved the food. And it's that, like, I'd never done it for money before. Like, it was always like, I always resisted that because it was always the thing that made me like, calmed me down after a long day or a stressful day. And you know, and then after finishing that, I sat on a bus bench in Santa Barbara until 6 in the morning when my bus for LA left. So it was an auspicious beginning, to say the least.
Yeah, I think you hit on a couple things there that I think are really powerful. One is, and it's going to come back to kind of with the work you're doing now, which is this caretaker aspect that you've had. Not only, I guess, you just found out your cousin too in Napa. I did not know that, but also being the eldest of the 7 kids, and then the the therapy aspect of food, which I think might be important now, right? Where it's like this place of calm, this sort of oasis in troubling times. No matter where you're at, you know, you can go into a kitchen and prepare something beautiful, and
I'm so
that
grateful
stands
that
on
that's
itself.
still, I'm so grateful that that's still something like that. I've always been afraid of losing that, doing it as a profession, and like getting so, because there's so much of the business side of things that just starts taking over, and it's very easy to get overwhelmed by and lose sight of the joy that it brings. And I'm so grateful that I can still find that joy in it. I think like the first, like, 2 days leading up to opening on March 27th here, we were literally awake for 3 days, and it's like Andre was trying to figure out how to connect the printer to the POS system via Bluetooth or whatever. I don't understand how any of that works. And Alyssa and I were just like getting things set up, and it was 4 in the morning, We've been up for like 48 hours, and I like put down what I was doing and I walked in the kitchen. I just started making sauce, and it was the most. It like instantly felt so much calmer and more like just like putting that the intention into that food. And it's I'm just grateful that I can still find that like calm and joy and the therapy in it. It's great.
I think
Therapy period is fantastic.
when you're talking about opening on March 27th, you're talking about Secret Lasagna, just to give some context to people
Yes,
who are.
apologies.
No, it's fine. And why don't you talk to us about why you brought that concept back right now, and kind of the work that you guys are doing with, I believe it's called "No
No less
Us
without you.
Without You," right? And how that's
Yeah,
feeding some
very apropos.
undocumented workers. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Secret Lasagna, I mean, I initially designed this pop-up like 3 years ago just to fill a late night delivery and takeout space. And so when all this went down, I was, just kind of going over like what can we do? And Andre and I were trying to figure out, what can we do to, I was on the phone all day, every day with people who were losing everything and just looking for either just calling me to vent or um, get advice or what. It just no one knew what was going on. No one still knows what's going on. It's insane. It's them. No one's ever had to deal with anything like this. Um, and so Audra and I were trying to figure out like what can we do to put some people back to work to like build something because we like everyone has to like a lot of we it was pretty clear to us from the get-go like a lot of places are not going to be able to come back from this. This is going to be a longer term thing than anyone is willing to admit at the time. And how do we create something that will work now and keep people working but also work on the other side of this? And that's nimble enough to pivot quickly enough to you know to keep evolving and changing as the laws and models dictate. So Secret Lasagna was kind of a no-brainer for me because it was designed for takeout and delivery. So it worked really well. It's one of those things that is better the next day. It's travels really well. It stays hot for 45 minutes. It's sent out in the tins it's cooked in. um and I had already spent years developing and testing it, etc. So we I had been working on the Clueless pop up with Derek Barry, who was Saved by the Max in West Hollywood, and obviously all that got put on hold with this. And so it's like I called Derek and I was like, "Hey, if you're down, like I'm just gonna come take over the space while this is going on, and we can put in a full market. We can run Secret Lasagna out of the kitchen, etc." And he's been a hell of a guy. And we just in literally like 4 days put this together. And I can't. It's insane. So yeah, I mean, I think that's like the one tier is like putting people back to work. So we have 11 people working here now, and the team is I feel so goddamn lucky to be in the same space with these people. It's they always say like surround yourself with people who are better than you or smarter than you or whatever the saying is. But like being surrounded by a bunch of people who are better and smarter than me at everything is phenomenal. It makes me feel like things can actually be accomplished because I'm really terrible at most things. I'm no good at running a kitchen. I'm no good at running books. Like Andre's amazing at that. Alyssa is like the best food stylist slash everything aesthetic. in the world. Also, she's so incredible with people. Brandon is easily, I can't like, I had like the third day I just looked at him and was like, I never want to do anything without you again. Like, just so, it's so incredible to have people who are actually good at things that you're terrible at. And then the other side of it was really important from the get-go that we work with, that we can find a way to give back. And we were like trying to figure out who we should work with. And my friends, Oton and Aaron and Diaz, all they had Vala Hospitality, and that we've been friends for quite some time. And they started a nonprofit called No Us Without You, specifically designed to feed undocumented kitchen workers who were out of work now. And I mean, the second I started talking to Otona about it, I was just, it's, this business, this industry has been broken for a long time, and it's been functioning on a really kind of model. But it's all built on the backs of low paid undocumented workers who will work anyone under the table and are most of the times working 2 or 3 jobs to support their families back home. It's, and then this happens, everything shuts down, and there's no one there to take care of them. There's no one there to have their back after they've had our back for the last forever. And it was heartbreaking just to hear like how many, as they're interacting with these families, and like their you know, their kids had, I know I grew up poor, but like they're, you know, when you think about someone who's worked this hard for this long and their kids are going to bed hungry and they don't know when they're going to be able to feed them next, and it's, there's no, you know, there's no stimulus package for them. Thankfully, you know, Newsom is launching one here in California, and I'm grateful to have leadership here in California that puts most other states to shame. But there's no recourse for them, and a lot of families are going to be too afraid to sign up for that because it means filling out paperwork with the government, and that's, you know, when you're undocumented, and when you're undocumented in a time when Trump is president, it is, I mean, I can't imagine the terror of, you know, when every time you turn on the news, it's all a push to get illegal immigrants and undocumented people out, which is the most insane thing.
I think
It's
that,
people who don't understand the economy crack me up.
yeah, the crazy thing about this sort of the trauma of the pandemic is it's just blown up all the flaws in every aspect of the system,
Oh my
whether
God.
it's a lack of health care for people who might be out of work, not being able to get
Yeah.
stimulus money to them on time, or industries that have relatively thin margins like the
Yeah.
restaurant industry. They're just not built to survive having to cut 30, 50, 70% of their revenue all of a sudden if they have to shift, even if they can survive, just
Yeah.
shifting to takeout or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
that's not how it's going to work.
No, and it's like the margins are so thin, and the money you make this week is going to the money you make this week is going to pay, you know, payroll for last week, and the money you make next week is going to pay, you know, last month's vendor invoices. And it's just Adam, you see the Ecolab? Yeah, thanks. Sorry. The, you know, it's just like there's no room for error, and when you just cut out revenue, or like you said, you know, make a fast pivot to, you know, takeout and delivery when your restaurant has never been built for that and your menu is not designed for it, it's, yeah, you're losing 70% of your revenue, and that's that you can't, like, the business is not designed to survive on that, and this business employs like 13 something million people in the United States. Like, it's not, it's such a massive part of the economy, and the fact that we're not actually like no one's actually figuring out like even the PPP stuff, like that's not a good like it's not a good solution for the industry at all. Like it's very like everything that's been put out there is so short-sighted, and it's just like it's just a bunch of band-aids, and it's like okay, yeah, thanks for the band-aids, but like I just got sawed in half, and I need like a doctor to reattach the lower half of my body to the upper half, and the band-aid is not going to do it. Yeah, it's genuinely kind of nuts, but that so that was the impetus for starting to work with No Us Without You.
Yep.
And I think I'm so thankful to know those guys. Like I honestly, what they're doing is such fuel to get up and keep going at it every day. Like I think last week was 330 families, and seeing the list of food that each family is getting now with all of our support, and then seeing our name on that, and Few for All, our friends who are also working with them, is just it's humbling to to be able to be a part of feeding you know that many people. And now we're and it's just so cool to be able to like ramp up every week. And I think we're after this week we've been able to donate $30,000 of food in
Well,
the
that's
last like month
yeah.
and a
I
half,
mean,
and that's like the only reason. Yeah,
the work that people are putting in now, at least to sort of mitigate it, I think is inspiring. I think, like you said, though, there's so many unknowns going into the future, and I think that's part of what I
yeah,
wanted to talk to you about too. It's like, um, you know, who knows what modifications are going to be necessary or mandated by city or state government in terms of when restaurants do reopen. I know
oh boy, yeah,
Newsom's talked about restaurants could be part of phase 2 here, but not immediately in all counties. But it could mean like
yeah,
30% capacity, 50% capacity for dine-in, and
yeah,
like other layers of regulations you're going to have to abide by. But there's also the debt levels that are going to accrue from restaurants. Maybe there's been a moratorium put on their rent, but that doesn't mean
yeah,
you don't have to pay it back when you reopen. And
yep,
now all of a sudden you have extra hundreds or thousands of dollars you're having to repay over
yep,
every month. And like you said before, your margin is not built for that.
thousands and
On
thousands.
top of the fact that
Yeah,
you are making less revenue as you've changed your concept.
so much less. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean
like
that's like it's insane to see. Like, I think like it's honestly going to be the hardest for fine dining, um, because and like it's somewhat as much as you can find humor in anything, but it's gonna like the people who it's gonna be easiest to get the money to come back, the bigger names. Like it's also gonna be the hardest to make profit for a very long time with fine dining, and I think that's why you saw like, and we'll see a lot more, but like Auburn and Bontemps, and like it's just not there's not a healthy path forward when you're operating at 30%. And it's like these are not takeout restaurants, and like there's a couple of groups and individual restaurants that it's been really inspiring to see how they've worked. Like my biggest pet peeve is the like when a restaurant just does takeaway or to go as an afterthought, because it's such a poor representation of the restaurant. Like their food isn't designed for it, and so it just comes to the consumer looking terrible. And seeing people really take the time, I mean, I think the Rustic Canyon group has been a spectacular example of this. Like one, just caring about their people. Obviously they can't keep everybody employed, but they were able to keep everybody on health care. That was really important to them. And I know that's one of the more important things you can do for people right now.
Yeah, it's interesting that I think the other thing the crisis has highlighted is how some employers and some operators treat their employees better or worse, and it sort of got
Yeah.
put a spotlight on that in terms of who was going to take care of their people and who wasn't. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. You want to share?
There's a lot of thoughts, and I don't know how
Well, you have to
much
get into
language I
specific.
can use, but
Well, you've already dropped a couple f-bombs, I
okay,
think.
well, there we go.
So now
Cool. I'm
I
glad
think the floodgates are open. I was telling
precedent.
I was telling Royce before we started taping that if anybody was going to put the profanity take off the profanity shackles in this relatively new video endeavor, it was going to be him.
Well, you're welcome. But no, it's seeing the way some, you know, big names chefs and restaurateurs have handled this and treated their people has been genuinely infuriating. It makes, someone said the other day that it's like this, or Esther, I was talking to Esther, saying, and she was saying how like this is like putting everyone's character in neon lights above their head, and it's like the people who give a shit and are there for people and actually care about people, it's become very, very clear. But the people who have become so detached from reality and are just do not care, it is so clear, and it is so disgusting to see, like, at this time, to see people that you respected just like be able to completely disconnect and just not do the bare minimum for people who've been there to support them for decades. In some cases, one friend who was with somebody for 13 years, the right hand, and ran their entire life, and it's like I can't fathom being able to disconnect that much and not see the reality of what people are going through that have been there for you. And I think that's been honestly the most rewarding thing for Andre and I and Alyssa and Brandon and this whole team, is like coming into work every day and doing, it's rewarding to make food for people and fulfill that basic human need. And then it's rewarding to see like all the people who come to work here every week and get a paycheck every week because of what we're doing. And it's rewarding, like, Otone's coming to make a pickup today, and it's like just see all of that food going out to people who really need it. And then with the market, that's a whole other level. Having it, like, the market is something that and it's part of my long-term business model for this. On the other side of it is the goal of the market is building something that is supporting our community of farmers and makers. Like, there's an insane amount of people, upwards of 11 million, who are not going to have jobs coming out of this. And there's so many talented cooks and makers and farmers and creators of any variety who, like, they now need to find a new way to create a livelihood. And I know you can't solve all those problems as much as the many complexes inside of me would like to, but being able to create something that is feeding those people in any way, and, like, seeing customers now know what Hatchville Grains Project flowers are, and seeing them fly off the shelves here because people realize what a great product it is. And I have Fujimoto's miso is here now, and it's like one of the greatest products I've ever seen. And seeing, like, being able to connect the general public to these these beautiful makers and people who created, like, I have these beautiful friends who have a Puerto Rican food truck, and they're making sofritos and salsa and moles for us, that we're selling through the site. And it's just, I don't know, that's like, there's just so many different levels of the reward of seeing the community come together, being able to provide kind of an umbrella or a space for people to come together. I think that's my passion has never really been for owning restaurants or building them. It's always about the relationships and the people for me, and seeing and being able to just honestly, it's like it's the most proud I've ever been of anything, because it's not about me. It's about putting a it's just about facilitating this insanely beautiful community that's become my family. And the people I'm around every day, and the people that I care about, and the people that I want to support, and being able to facilitate them continuing to do the beautiful stuff they do. Whether it's winemakers like Abe and Jeff, and the Shannon people and Pax, and like, it's just, it's nuts. And it's like, it's kind of this full circle thing where you're seeing all of these people come together, and then having, like, my passion for winemaking, and then like having all my favorite winemakers here, and like coming into the space and dropping off wine, and then just so many people coming together around this idea of taking care of people that have taken care of us for so long. Even like, we just finished doing this insane like virtual pop-ups. It was all like pickup and delivery with Kevin Smith of Jay and Silent Bob, and
Right.
all of the lore. And he's the greatest guy. And he's just like, from the very get-go, he saw what we were doing with No West Without You, and he's like, and I'm not paraphrasing, I think he might actually maybe swear more than I do. But he was just like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen, and I want to, like, he donated all the profit from the movies pop up to No Us Without You. And then the company that does all of his merch was like, hey, this is really, like, we love this. While this pop-up is running, we want to donate all the profits from merch sales to No Us Without You. And it's just like, just seeing people from all walks of life, the entertainment industry, the people who come in here and shop, the like, it's just cool. It's a nice counterbalance to all of the absolute filth and hate and vitriol that you see in the news every day, to see people just being, if they have the means, if they don't have the means. There's some guy that I still haven't replied to in my DMs who's like, I'm an artist, I don't have the means to support, but I would love to like come paint your signs for you. And I feel I just remembered this now. I haven't replied to him in like 3 weeks, so I should get on Instagram and do that.
It's I think it's when times are tough, it definitely, it reminds us of people's capacity for generosity that sometimes we
Yes.
take for granted, or we forget. I think that's one definite positive that's coming out of that does counterbalance some of the trauma that everyone's facing. There's also, you sort of touched on it, like there's a drive and a sort of gut desire that all these creative individuals have to just make something. There's also demand on the other end to experience that. And that's why food is such an important part of the fabric of our culture. It's that people want to go out and experience these things. They want to try new flavors. They want to broaden their horizons. They want to just have something delicious to eat at night when they're going out to a restaurant or taking it out. That's not going away. It's just like there's going to have to be a new format for how those two things, how those interface. Yeah.
You want that experience. You want to feel connected to the people who are making something. And so hopefully what we're able to do the market and with facilitating, like getting all of these small independent makers into the hands of consumers, is facilitate those experiences in different ways, because it's like, it's not going to go back to the same right away. The restaurants aren't going to be full the day it opens. It's not, it's going to take a long time, and it's going to be scary for a while, but people still want that. And I'm really hopeful. I was talking to Sherry from the Hatchery Grains Project, and it's like the one thing I'm really hopeful about and excited for is if we can, like, if what comes out of this is that people are, they start shopping smaller, they start trying, like, supporting different farmers directly, and like now you know what's going on. Just take down the number one call. Yeah.
Roy, stop being a businessman in the middle of our Zoom call, all right?
I'm so sorry. But like, yeah, just get like people being able to connect more directly to the producers of these
Right.
products, whether it's the farmers, whether it's the flour makers, whether it's the winemakers, etc. Like hopefully, like we've just gotten so, you know, and it's the same thing with the meat industry where it's like, I love meat and I'm not going to stop eating meat, but we do need, it needs to change. Like I shouldn't be able to go to a Vons and get a ribeye for $6 or something. Like that means that a whole lot of terrible things happened.
Yep.
That are hurting the environment,
Yep.
that are hurting animals, that are hurting people, that are like, I would rather have meat so much less frequently and have it be a more expensive, more specialty commodity, if you will, but raised, you know, sustainably and humanely, where it's like, you know, and there's great people who are doing that, and it's so good. Like Standing's Butchery sells out every day, and that's fantastic because those guys source everything sustainably, they source everything locally, and they care about what they do. And it's just good to see those. It's encouraging to see that they're like the people who are doing things the right way are, for the most part, like being supported. And I hope that continues. I hope, honestly, I hope we can get away from this, like, go buy everything in bulk cheaply and like have it sit in your refrigerator on your shelves for the next 6 months. It's like it's almost like this hoarding mentality, whereas like it's like when you're in Europe, or you know, it's this, you go to the market, you go to a different little shop to get everything. Like if I'm in Paris, you go get your, you know, baguette, and then you go get your vegetables from this little guy, and you go to the fishmonger over here. It's these little things, and it's like it's not more expensive than the way we shop now. It's actually less expensive because we're not wasting a bunch of shit. Like we end up throwing so much stuff away. But then it's just such a, I don't know, it's like you're cooking, there's just so much more intention to it, and you're like, you're supporting, you know, the people you're supporting, you see their faces every day. It's like, I hope that there's something that comes out of this that makes all of this a little more tangible, that really, I hope that we get to continue connecting people to those producers, to those farmers. I hope as this comes, you know, out of this, I really want to start figuring out ways to just like introduce people to the person who grew their food, it's like, you know, there's a lot of people who go to the farmers markets, but a lot of people who go to the farmers markets don't know who the farmer is. They don't actually talk to anybody. They just get their stuff, you know, and it's like a lot of work goes into everything that goes on your plate. And it's cool that people are recognizing that more. And I apologize for going on a tirade there.
No, it's fine. I think those are thoughts well expressed. That's probably a good note to end on, honestly. That note of hope about what this might, how this could renew some of our human to human interactions, and thinking about some of the more local, smaller providers and how we can connect with them. But Royce, I really do appreciate you coming on and having this chat with me. I think it provided a lot of value and insight to people who may not have a window into this industry. Exactly. They know it's going through a traumatic time, but they're not exactly sure what the nuts and bolts are. And I think you painted a little bit of more of a picture for them. And also the work you're doing, it's really inspiring. So I think others can take note of that and maybe see that as an example.
Well, the only secret to everything is surround yourself with people who are way better at you than everything.
Yeah, and also to paraphrase you got to give a
There we go.
you got one out of me. All right. Well, hopefully we can have you back on again. And until then, keep doing what you're doing. It was good talking with you.
Thanks, brother.
Right, take care.